and some have resorted to illegal marches characterized by acts of damaging of property and public property. Siyaqonda ukuthi enye yezinto ezenza ukuthi abantu begcine sebemasha bengene emgwaqweni kwesinye isikhathi akwenziwa kuphela ukuthi ngobe idinga ihlinzeko kubantu, kodwa kwenziwa ukuthi bayayibona ukuthi kwezinye indawo bahlomlile abantu thina pho sisala kanjani. Okuyi-indication kuyasetshenzwa ngoba bakhona abahlomlayo kodwa bengeke behlomele bonke abantu ngesikhathi esisodwa. Whilst the behavior of this nature cannot be condoned, as leadership of Tegwini, we remain committed to ensuring that all service delivery challenges must be resolved with immediate effect, hence the adoption of the Operation Good Hope, which is also part of Back to Basics program. Operation Good Hope. Through this operation, the city has developed tangible plans with timelines to address these challenges. The main objectives of this operation are as follows: improve cleanliness of the city by focusing on poor service delivery pressure points in the primary and secondary towns and townships. Secondly, to improve the pace, frequency, and quality of the response to service delivery faults that have been identified. Thirdly, to mobilize the city staff and public at large around taking care of the city facilities and improving the culture of civic pride. Because government alone cannot clean all the areas. It requires committees themselves to up the game, to work with government, to ensure that we clean our areas working with the city. And the behavior that we always display also talk to that. It is a matter of public record that our inner city and secondary towns such as Pinetown, ECP, Motongat, Verulam, Amanzimtoti are experiencing serious decay. Usungazofunga ukuthi akuwona amadolobha amancane ngaphansi komkhandlu waseThekwini. Angifuni ukulinganisa ngeminye imikhandlu kodwa ungazocabanga ukuthi umkhandlu usemakhaya ngempela. Mawubheka oPinetown, ubheka oSphingi, ubheka oThongathi noVerulam. Ngazuthi nje abasabhilonga eThekwini. Ngakho-ke le campaign izokwenza umsebenzi ukuthi singaxoxi ngalezi indawo kodwa kube khona action esiwenzayo. So there are now clear timelines, there are teams deployed to deal with these challenges. It's not about cleaning, as I've outlined the main purpose of the program, but it's also to maintain the infrastructure, because the infrastructure is aging, so it requires maintenance. And that maintenance talks to electricity, make sure that all street lights are lighting in the city. You can't have a dark city of this nature like the metro. So this program is intended to deal with such. Potholes. People can't be complaining continuously about potholes. People can't be complaining perpetually about the rendering of services like closing the leaks, water leaks, sewer spillages that we observe in many areas, overgrown verges. The township areas and informal settlements have also experienced worse service delivery situation, which threatens the realization of the vision of our city, which is to become the most livable and caring city by 2030. The service delivery challenges include inter alia, sewer spillages, potholes, overgrown grass, crime and grime, uncontrolled informal trade, bad buildings, poor enforcement and traffic congestion. Some of the challenges that hinder adequate service delivery are operating in silos between different departments and units of the city, poor service, poor supervision of ground staff and contractors. Abathi beqashiwe nje umasipala mesebethi hayi thina ngeke sikwazi ukuthi sisaphuthume emhlangano saye emhlanganweni ethize ngesikhathi somsebenzi. Ngakho ke kufanele siqede leyo nto ngoba abantu baqashiwe kufanele begcina isikhathi somqashi ngaso sonke isikhathi benze umsebenzi wabo. We have also noted the duplication of services, which in turn leads to low productivity and poor implementation of the local area plans and inner city regeneration strategy for other secondary cities and our townships. Therefore, Operation Good Hope, as endorsed at the Mayoral Lekgotla 2020, serves to deliver a strategy to address the service delivery dissatisfaction in the city. The teams to facilitate regeneration of the inner city and the Sipingo CPD are already on the ground to deal with the identified problems. The agreed approach is to undertake targeted multidisciplinary operation leads in the priority areas. Fridays has been declared as a clean-up Friday, where service delivery interventions will be intensified, including the enforcement of the bylaws and clamping down on contraventions. Secondary CBD and townships will be coordinated in a similar manner. This initiative is aligned to the mayoral Operation Sukuma Sake program, which entails leadership and the city's senior officials visiting at least 12 wards of the municipality per month. To date, we have visited over 51 wards of the municipality where we have been able to address issues raised by the communities on the spot. But other issues are still outstanding. Our intention was to visit all 110 wards of the municipality by end of June this year. However, due to COVID-19, we had to suspend this program to comply with the lockdown regulations. Plans to resume the program have been finalized, and we'll be visiting Dr. Pisley Isagasem zone next week on Wednesday. So say Kalilege, Shuti for sure Seliash. Sibuyele ensimini. Akade sejabula ukuthi sekuphunyulwe. Engathi njabulisiya ngasekupheleni. On COVID-19 response, Program Director De Welt is faced by an unprecedented challenge of the COVID-19 pandemic, which has destroyed the economy and livelihoods. Within eThekwini municipality, there has been 147,785 laboratory tests conducted. The recovery rate was recorded at 96.2%, whilst the fatality rate is standing at 2.7% as from the 3rd of November 2020. The incidence risk for eThekwini municipality was 68 cases per 100,000 population. The hotspots identified in eThekwini, now I'm leaving you alone. The hotspots identified in eThekwini municipality as at the 2nd of November 2020 are as follows. Umlazi with a total number of confirmed cases of 3,969. Phoenix with a total number of confirmed cases 1,658. Tongat with a total number of confirmed cases 842. Chatsworth with a total number of confirmed cases of 1,580. And Pantown with a total number of cases 1,210. Working with the Department of Health, the Department of Health received the global field field hospital has continued to record new infections daily. Since the beginning of October, an average of 4 COVID-infected areas have been recorded per week. Whilst the average number of COVID-related cremations are 7 per week. As the municipality, we are monitoring the resurgence of the virus, and we have embarked on an intensive awareness campaign through the media to urge members of the public to abide by lockdown protocols. We are pleased to report that during this difficult period, the city has been able to continue to render basic services to our communities. A total of 14,968 water reconnections have been conducted as at the 2nd of November 2020. A total 91 water dispensers were installed. 464 static tanks have also been supplied in communities which we are not priding ourselves with static tanks. It shows the backlog which I've spoken about. Access to sanitation has been provided by means of installation of 313 chemical toilets. At the beginning of the lockdown, the city initiated one of the biggest disinfection and sanitization program in 581 informal settlements, 11 hostels and 6,000 rental stock. An average of 410 buses are sanitized daily, including public transport facilities. This also happened with the taxi industry. To alleviate the plight of the homeless people in the city during COVID-19 lockdown and beyond, the city established 12 temporary shelters to accommodate close to 2,200 people. Through this program, we have been able to reunite 171 people with their families on family restoration program, while others have been armed with self-help skills including upholstery, pottery, plumbing, welding, carpentry, sewing, beadwork, knitting, visual and creative arts, electrical engineering, gardens, recycling, and computer skills. Through the professional health services provided in these shelters, more than 60 homeless people have managed to quit drugs, and others have enrolled as students at higher education institutions. Program Director, it is important to mention that we were the only municipality in the country that unveiled a social relief program which saw 1,000 poor households per ward receiving food hampers or vouchers in all 110 wards of eThekwini, which therefore equates to 110,000 households being attended to during COVID-19. To mitigate against the negative economic impact of COVID-19, the city developed an economic recovery plan to reduce the impact of the estimated 327,000 jobs losses that were projected in the second quarter of 2040. Our economic recovery plan is anchored on 11 pillars, which include the following: develop and implement a dynamic reporting system on the state of the economy, joint private and public sector program of action to restart the tourism sector, protecting and building the rural township and informal economies, creating an extraordinary environment for construction and infrastructure development, developing a turnaround strategy for key economic sectors to recoup from where they left during COVID-19. On radical socio-economic transformation, we have made it clear as the city leadership that radical socio-economic transformation must be the cornerstone of all economic recovery plan. Post-COVID-19, we want to see a transformed economy landscape with all the citizens of eThekwini, particularly those who were deliberately sidelined participating in the mainstream economy. Kuyihlazo ukuthi umnotho wethu waseThekwini namanje usasevidlanzana. Ngakho ke akubalekile kulokho esik-acknowledge lokho, okubalekile ukuthi singenelele. In this regard, Honorable Minister and our leadership, we have established eThekwini Economic Council with the Jobs Creation and Skills Revolution War Room that is intending to address these challenges and the fault lines of our economy. We can't continue singing about radical socio-economic transformation. The time to act is now. Post-COVID-19, we want to see that eThekwini and its transformed economy. Our plans to build an inclusive economy include the following: allocations of minimum of 30% of the city's procurement spend for sustainable social solidarity economy driven by social enterprises and cooperatives. Introduce infrastructure procurement reforms to drive emerging contractor development program. Remember that if you establish cooperatives and you don't create institutional mechanisms to support them, you'll always refer to them as failures. And those who are in the private sector, they will always enjoy that vacuum, that cooperatives are failing the state. So therefore the state resort to offer and request the services from the private sector only without balancing the mixed economy that we are as a country. Because the mixed economy is built of the state playing a bold and decisive role in the economy, the private capital, and as well as social partners. That's a lag that has been lagging behind in our economy. So social solidarity economy is intended to address that gap, that that lag has been lagging behind. So therefore we need to put it back to the mainstream economy where our people will be able to do things on their own. Who said when you build houses you only need private capital to build houses? Why can't you allow communities themselves to build houses for themselves? Why can't you allow them to fix potholes for themselves? Why can't you allow them to clear the overgrown grass in their own area so that they take ownership of what we intend achieving? So those are the kind of things that we talk about. We need to establish a supplier payment dispute unit to pay suppliers within or less than 30 days and manage all payments dispute processes. Our emerging companies are always complaining that they get paid late, so therefore it deals with their operations. Some of them, they even shut down their operations because they are unable to proceed. Implement an aggressive oceans economy business strategy. Singaloko sithi kunomnotho solwandle siyimemeza noma ehlala ekhuluma ngawo njalo, so we need a solid plan with clear timelines how we intend turning the tide around in the ocean economy. Reduction of fruitless and wasteful expenditure of public funds by implementing an online reverse auction tender system. Establish moral skills revolution, a war room, focusing on building the skills for the future, particularly among the youth. Develop appropriate stimulus packages focusing on reducing the cost of doing business for distressed sectors such as tourism sector and manufacturing. Cheers. Ani nawe amaglasi echampagne lapho. Impilo yawulwa amanzi. On City's Financial Health, Program Director. Despite the challenges we have, the municipality continues to maintain its proud track record of not receiving a qualified audit report opinion. May I also take this opportunity to express our heartfelt condolences to our Auditor General, Babu Makwedu, and we are with his family in our prayers during this trying period. May his soul rest in peace. During 2018-2019 financial year, we received an unqualified audit opinion with 84 matters. We are pleased to report that 50 of these matters and findings have been addressed. A clean audit strategy has been developed and focuses on supply chain management, consequence management, water and electricity losses in distribution, as well as irregular, unauthorized, and fruitless and wasteful expenditure. This plan has been approved by the Council. As the leadership of the city, in fact, we have declared a zero tolerance on fraud and corruption. Let me also report that Let me also report that to the leadership that when we arrived in the municipality in September last year, we found a backlog of 333 disciplinary cases following the approval of the project plan to reduce the case backlog. We have been able to progress 164 cases now. This number may change because we are still awaiting a report on the improvement in that area. We have also maintained an investment-grade credit rating of AA plus in the long term and A1 plus in the short term, despite the downgrading of sovereign rating. We are also committed to being investor-friendly city and growing rates base by creating a conducive environment for existing businesses to grow and attract and ensure much-needed job creation. The COVID-19 pandemic and lockdown has had a severe impact on our economy and the finances of the city. At a local government level, we are dependent on business and residents for 85% of our own revenue. In addition to that, there has been little financial assistance for COVID-19 for local government, with only 20 billion of the 500 billion national relief package being allocated to all local authorities. There has been additional, in fact, this happened through the grants which were given authority to utilize. So people may not think that, should not think that we were given 20 billion all municipalities in South Africa, but we were given an authority to utilize grants to respond to COVID-19. There has been additional COVID-19 related expenditure of the city, whilst we have also had to provide social assistance to the poorest of the poor, ratepayers, as well as economic relief to businesses. Accordingly, the city has taken unprecedented steps to help our people, firstly, by implementing an interest holiday for 3 months from April to June 2020, no disconnections of services for customers in areas during the said period, write-off of interest on all debts over 90 days. We are open to negotiation with business arrangements to pay depending on their individual circumstances. So we should treat each and every case with its own merit. As a current government, we have also ensured that our indigent policy supports those living in properties valued below 500,000, as well as allow for the deferment of payments for services for all citizens, irrespective of the value of their property. But there is an assumption which says that when you live in a household or in a family structure, a house which values 500,000, it means you are not poor. It happens that people lose income. It happens that people lose everything in their livelihood. So, therefore, the intervention is also aiming to target such communities. Notwithstanding these challenges, we have managed to produce the lowest rates and tariffs in the past 6 years. We work tirelessly on trying to reduce these increases in terms of affordability and sustainability. The collection rate before COVID-19 lockdown was 95%, but this dropped to 56% in April, resulting in a collection rate of 88% in 2019-2020. In the new financial year, the collection rate has steadily increased from 78% in July 2020 to 117% in September 2020 and 118% in October 2020, giving us a year-to-date collection rate of 97% in 2020-2021, which is higher than the pre-COVID collection rate and is above the National Treasury benchmark of 95%. Now moving to catalytic projects. As a response and as part of the presidential infrastructure program, COVID-19 pandemic did not only have a negative impact on cash collections in the city, but also it has stagnated progress on capital projects. Before the lockdown, the city initiated key foreign direct investment totaling to 14 billion rands, which highlighted the attractiveness of Durban eThekwini as an investment destination. At the beginning of COVID-19 pandemic, the city was forced to hold the following catalytic projects. Point waterfront development. We're dealing with water mains there, but the major developments are still forthcoming. Rivertown precinct upgrade, which is also continuing. Chongweni mixed use development, which the minister will also pay a visit to have a look at that program, which is about to find its expression on the ground. On Tumsan Makai development, Midway Crossing Mall development, there is major progress that is being achieved there. On Konupia, which is a mixed-use development, which has got factories, residential, schools, clinic, and other public amenities. Dube Trade Port, which is our own Erythropolis strategy as a city and the provincial government, which also accommodates many technological factories that are being established there, and Dube Trade Port, which is part of that. The Keystone along Henry, Mpumalanga development, Claywood Logistic Park, Centrum site, which is also on the public stage where we are expecting public comments, Virginia Airport, which still awaits public comments on it, Durban Film City as well, which the plans are progressing, and Durban Iconic Tower, which will be along the coastal line of our city, Ilovo Auto Supply Park, Mnini, which is also on the right track. All these developments, leadership, and participants, they come with major investments. We as a city, we also invest on infrastructure, ensuring that there's adequate water, electricity, and roads to those developments. With the easing of lockdown levels, some of these projects have recommenced, and we are happy to report that some of the jobs that were shed as a result of work stoppages have now been retained. On gender-based violence, Program Director, the recent global pandemic of COVID-19 has led to a sharp increase in crime statistics, with gender-based violence reaching crisis proportions. It is said that during this period we have lost many women and children at the hands of people who are supposed to protect them and in places where they ought to be safe. Akwonaka amadoda lawa enza lezi zinto. Awazenze egameni lamadoda. Angazi ngababiza ngokuthi abantu abanje lapha. These are people who have totally lost their souls. The GBV crime hotspots as presented in the crime statistics are Inanda, where the mayor comes from, Umlazi, Ntuzuma, Mpumalanga, and Chatsworth. Alcohol and drugs abuse have always been identified as the main contributory factors to these social ills. The city provides a seamless platform where perceived perpetrators and victims have discussions to champion a sustainable mechanism to address GBV challenges in eThekwini. We have recently established the men's and women's sector forums to tackle the scourge of gender-based violence. During the Women's Month and the Men's Month, we convened many webinars in Umlazi, Nanda, and Claremont and other areas where we develop plans to stem the tide of crime, including GBV. Those programs are still continuing. Some happen in Umnini, on the south part of our city. The city also has Tutuzela centers, care centers, which are one-stop facilities that have been introduced as a critical part of South Africa's anti-rape strategy, aiming to reduce secondary victimization and to build a case ready for successful prosecution. One of which is Phoenix, situated in the Mahatma Gandhi Hospital. The Tutuzela project is led by NPA's Sexual Offences and Community Affairs Unit, SOCA, in partnership with the various departments and donors as a response to the urgent need for an integrated strategy for prevention, response, and support of rape victims. Since its establishment, the soccer unit has been working to develop best practices and policies that seek to eradicate victimization of women and children, while improving prosecution, particularly in the areas of sexual offenses, maintenance, child justice, and domestic violence. Shuthi lamadoda angondli nawo ayingxenye ukuthi imphakathi ingasimami nemndeni ingasimami ngoba umndeni ohlakazekile umndeni la khona ubaba engondla abantwana nomndeni aphume ayospenda imali emajointini umndeni uhlakazekeke ngaleyo ndlela. So ke fanele sibhekwe zonke lezo zinto. In conclusion, we believe the district development model will strengthen service delivery and improve planning and implementation of all these programs. Following the launch of this program by the President, we have been able to develop the terms of reference for both metropolitan and technical hub, which will clearly define our roles and responsibilities in the implementation of government priorities. These terms of references will also guide us on how we should pursue development through a single and integrated plan within the metro. We must also report that there is a steering committee which deals with the concept of safer cities. We are led by the Minister of the Police. The steering committee sits every month. We have just established the Fusion Center, where Metropolis, SAPS, disaster management, and other law enforcement agencies are participating, especially in using technology to defeat the scourge of crime. We have recently, on Friday, relaunched our committee crime fighting structures, which includes the drug committees that happened on Friday. Let us continue to work together to improve the lives of our people and build a city that belongs to all who live in it. I thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Capacity now, so people moving in and out must make sure they go and they come back and got no more place now. The capacity.
Okay. Thank you so much, Your Worship, the Mayor, for that presentation. We want to acknowledge Undabezita, Nkosi yesizwe ucele waseNgonyameni. Siyakwamukela Ndabezitha. Sizozama ukuphuthuma kakhulu, colleagues. I'm advised that we have reached capacity in terms of people expected to be inside the venue as per the regulations of COVID-19. So we'll request colleagues who are dealing with protocol and security services to manage the situation from the door. We don't want to break regulations in your presence, Minister. Manje ufika usithethisa manje mawukhona nawe kuzoba ninkinga. Now we will then have the reflections from the two deputy ministers who are also champions or deployed by the President to eThekwini Metro, Honorable DM Mafu, no DM Jeffries. These are two deputy ministers who are deployed to work with us in the eThekwini Metro, as I'm deployed from the provincial side. So they will be with us throughout, and as we deal with all the issues pertaining to eThekwini Metro. So I will request DM Jeffries, okay, DM Mafu to then start with the reflections. She will then be immediately followed by DM Jeffries. Then we'll take it from there. Thank you.
Safe la. Safe Yes, please.
Thank you very much, Program Director.
who is also the MEC for education in the province and the champion for eThekwini deployed by the provincial government. Greetings to the Minister of COGTA, Umama Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, who is the mother of this district development model, to the MEC for COGTA in the province, Ubutsi Pohlomuka. My colleague, the Deputy Minister, John Jeffries, otherwise we call him JJ, he knows, he's but JJ. The Mayor of the Metro, Honorable Kaunda, the EXCO members that are here, led by Speaker. I saw the Deputy Mayor has arrived, the Chief Whip, Amakosi that are here, that have been always our partners in terms of making sure that what we try to implement happens, the business sector, the religious sector, and everybody else that is here. But I can't forget the officials, both from the national, the province, and the metro itself, led by the municipal manager. I'm going to be very short. Mine is just to reflect on what has happened since we've been here. The President announced the development district model, and in the discussions that have ensued after that with the minister, there was an agreement that all ministers and deputy ministers must be deployed in all the districts in the country. And this had happened in the middle of the peak of the pandemic. Luckily for us, myself and Deputy Minister John Jeffries, we got deployed in the metro where it was already launched by both the President and the Minister. So we didn't have the hard work of working towards launching the model itself because it was launched. Ours was to make sure, help working with the province and the metro, that we put the structures in place. We were called, the first meeting was called on the 14th of July, Minister, by the province for all the champions that were deployed in the province. It was called by the provincial government. The aim was to introduce us all to how the province see the working together and the rolling out and launching out of the district model. That meeting was virtual, of course, because that was at the peak of the pandemic. And the province made a presentation to all of us about the district model in the province. Following that, we got invited in a meeting in the metro, which was a metro command council meeting, which took place on the 17th of July. This was also virtual because at the time we were still at the peak of the pandemic. And I do want to say all the meetings that we had attended had been virtual so far. Minister. In that meeting of the 17th of July, we got to know that the council itself had approved the district development model on the 4th of June, 2020, which we were very happy about. We also got to know about some challenges that the metro was having in terms of dealing with the other spheres of government. One was the issue of the field hospital that seemed to have a problem between the province and the national, which we had intervened. There was also a problem of the IDs for the destitute people that, to our credit, Deputy Minister John Jeffries assisted in the Metro on resolving that issue. There was an issue of a call center backlog on that first meeting, which we are happy to say we assisted in resolving it. We have had 2 meetings of the political hub, which we are happy to say it has put in place and is working well. We also had the pleasure of discussing the recovery plan, the economic recovery plan of the Metro in that political hub. One of the big things that emerged in the political hub was the issue of aligning the work streams with the clusters, because we were discussing the fact that at provincial and national level, we're working with clusters and the city was working with work streams. So we said, can we align the two? Because we're talking one plan, one budget. And I'm happy to say that has been done. In the last meeting, the report showed that that alignment has been done. We were also informed, MEC, that the War Room for Job Creation and Skills Revolution has been put in place. And of course, we have not had the opportunity to visit physically these things because we have not been able to do site visits. We know that the gender-based violence plan is to be launched very soon, and we are aware as the champions that out of the top 10 hotspots in the country, 3 are coming from this metro: KwaMashu, Mlazi, and Inanda. They are in the top 10 of the country in terms of the hotspots of the gender-based violence. That's why my colleague and myself, we will be back into the city on the 20th and the 21st to be doing a program on gender-based violence, because the president has dubbed the gender-based violence and femicide as a second pandemic that we need to deal with. That's why our main focus as the champions is the issue of the COVID-19 and the gender-based violence. We were just worried, MEC Shlomuka, in the last meeting that we were told that it doesn't look like the metro is going to meet the timelines in terms of the plan. As we are busy with the one plan. So it doesn't look like we are on time. And we raised a concern as the champions that can this be discussed and checked with the metro and see that is there any other way that we can fast track it? Or if it can be fast tracked, is the department happy with the fact that we are behind? We are aware that we are a pilot city, and therefore anything that delays here has got an impact into the entire country. So we were promised then that response we will get when we meet again. So I thought it's important just to raise those and to say now that we are at level 1, we are going to be more visible in the metro. Webinars are going to be less, and we will be here to do the work on the ground more often and make sure that we work well, both with the province and the metro. Thank you very much.
DM Mafu. We will then also invite to the podium Jabla, DM Jeffries. Thank you.
Thanks very much, MEC Mshengu as the provincial champion, and good morning to everybody. Minister Dlamini Zuma in absentia, the Mayor in absentia, MEC Shlomuka, the other Amakosi, the Deputy Mayor, the other officials and councillors. I think that my colleague, Deputy Minister Mafu, has really given the report that from both of us, so there's not much for me to report on. But I think the topic is also meant to be reflection, so let me just make a couple of reflections. This whole model is about the problem that the President referred to in his budget speech last year, of the pattern of operating in silos. He referred to it as a challenge which leads to the lack of coherence in planning and implementation and has made monitoring and oversight of government's program difficult. Now, all of us who work in government know that often different departments and institutions operate in silos, and that a lack of intergovernmental planning and consultation are an ongoing problem. So definitely in the context of the metro, where you've got local, provincial, national departments, but you've also got state-owned enterprises or state entities also playing a key role. I was at a meeting earlier in the week with another government, or with two government departments, and a colleague, a deputy minister, and at one point had to sort of exclaim in exasperation, do we have two governments? Because the way people were behaving was as though this department does this, and I mean this as a silo, and we don't do anything else we don't do anything outside that. So the one issue with the whole district development model is to tackle the silo aspect. Having champions then you've got your own elected leadership as the municipality, but having a provincial champion and national champions is basically to ensure monitoring, but also to unblock blockages, because the one thing that the bureaucracy on whatever level ends up doing is getting stuck. Things get stuck in different places, and trying to unblock those blockages. So that's one of the key things why you've got champions. As Deputy Minister Mafu said, we have been given some things to unblock, but not very much. The main request we seem to get, Minister Dlamini Zuma, is which is not one we can really do much with, but the main request is go to Treasury and ask for more money for eThekwini. But the other point I wanted to make, just by way of reflections, and it's another experience I have with the bureaucracy, and that is, unfortunately, the officials seem to be geared to look for the positive spin. So when you give a report on something, often that report, most often, unfortunately, is not balanced, fair. It will be the positive stuff, the stuff that you want the political leadership to hear. And you don't want them to hear, there's this problem, that didn't work out, those kinds of things. And I often think when we have intergovernmental structures on issues, we also need to reflect on what are the perceptions of the community out there on the issue. And often what the community are saying about something, the provision of a particular service, is quite different to the positive spin that the officials are doing on it. So I do want to urge in the process that officials must be honest. Let's look at the challenges as well as the positive aspects, but let's reflect what the concerns of the community are. I think those are really just the two main points I wanted to make. As I said, my colleague, Deputy Minister Mafu, gave the report for both of us. eThekwini is a very important metro. I don't want to start rating places, and that's probably definitely something that MEC Shlomuka would not want to do, that this municipality is more important than that one, but its population, its economic size, eThekwini is vital. It is suffering from its history. I mean, I remember seeing comparisons of the geographical size of cities in other parts of the world. And the South African cities, and in particular eThekwini, because of apartheid spatial planning, of trying to put, in particular, African people far from the center, they're spread out. So it's a huge area that you've got to look at, and it's a huge area that you've got to provide services for. But you have our commitment as the two national champions that we will be with you every step of the way. Thank you.
Thank you to the two DMs for those reflections, and as they have committed, Your Worship the Mayor, that we should now be able to spend more time here in eThekwini, given the fact that we are now at level 1, and with the hope that we'll not see the resurgence of the infections again, and obviously that will also depend on our own conduct as the people, particularly as the leaders, because we do have to be exemplary at all material times as we fight against this pandemic. But be that as it may, I'm sure immediately after this visit we need to convene and also reflect. And without really further ado, now I will request MEC Hlomuga, who's the MEC for Kokta in the province, to do some remarks and then introduce the minister. Ntwasepa again.
Thank you very much. Program Director, MEC for Education, KwaZulu-Natal, Honorable Mshengo. Uma ukhona wena imo impofana should ikhona nayo. We want to extend our greetings to National Minister of Corporate Governance and International Affairs, Umama Udokotela Dlamini Zuma. Balekile to emphasize the part of a doctor because you work for it, Mama. So we must acknowledge that and encourage. We also want to greet the two deputy ministers who are the champions working with my colleague in the province, Deputy Minister Mafu and Deputy Minister Jeffrey JJ. We also want to greet the Mayor of eThekwini, Babu Kawunda, the Deputy Mayor present. We want to greet you, Deputy Mayor, and the Speaker of eThekwini, the Chief Whip of eThekwini, and ESCO members present. We want to greet and all councillors present here, different stakeholders from different institutions or organizations, NGOs or CPO present. We really appreciate your presence in this meeting. Let's say, ladies and gentlemen, all protocol is observed. It is really a minister, my single honor to introduce you as a minister of the National Minister of Corporate Governance and Traditional Affairs, who happened to be a daughter of the province. We just introduce you, but you know we are one of our own. It is never easy to introduce you, a minister, without being moved by your stories of an extraordinary human and professionalism achievement, as you are giving us an inspirational story of an African woman of our land who may come from a humble beginning. And Chairperson or Program Director, the successes of a minister, Dr. Dlamini Zuma, in life derived from her unconditional love for all humanity and her belief in the potential African and continent of Africa. We are saying that, Minister, because of your credentials, and you have served in a number of portfolios in South Africa, in the country, and even outside. So our country is really fortunate to call her our citizen. During the struggle, you sacrificed much for the liberations of our people. And we really want to appreciate what we have done for the people of South Africa, but also the people of KwaZulu-Natal. The minister, she is currently serving as the National Minister of Corporate Governance and Treasury Affairs, as I've already indicated. And it is in this capacity that she has, with her usual passion, championed the rollout of the district development model throughout the country, including eThekwini, as the MEC Mshengu, MEC of Education. He indicated that she has been all over the province. I think last week or 2 weeks ago, she was in Eastern Cape to also deal with the issue of DDM. So we're happy to report that the minister that is in our province to hit the ground running regard to the DDM. A number of districts in the province, Minister, they have launched the DDM. Only left with one district that we are going to deal with, which is Ilembe. And we are very grateful about your support as a province under the leadership of the Premier Ukuzen Uzigalala, who always guide us on ensuring that we ensure that we implement fully the DDM. You remember, Minister, we were together in launching at Herigwala, and we really appreciate what we have done. I think I've already indicated that Minister is currently serving as the Minister of Culture, but he has been the Minister of Presidency, dealing with planning and monitoring and evaluation, and also prior to that, she was the Minister of Health, Foreign Affairs, International Relations, and Home Affairs. There are a number of portfolios that she has been deployed by different presidents to deal with. And in 2012, July, she was elected as an African Commission as its chairperson, and making her the first woman to lead this organization. And we are very grateful, Minister, to be with you. We have served a number of portfolios, as I indicated. You serve as the president of a United Nations World Conference Against Racism, and also the president of Ministerial Council for the United Nations World Summit on Sustainable Development. I can't mention all of them, but we really want to welcome you and introduce you. These are the stakeholders that they want to engage with you. Can we rise so that we welcome the minister? Thank you very much.
Sorry, please sit down. Thank you very much. Program Director, MEC of Education, Tishomkul. And Bingelele, Deputy Minister, who are the champions of eThekwini, Minister Deputy Minister uNocawe Mafu, no Comrade no Deputy Minister John Jeffries. Yabonga babhlumuka amazwi owabekile ngami. Thank you very much. Umphathi ke wedolobha usokhaya. Usokhaya. Angasho ukuthi umphathi wedolobha because iTheku alilona idolobha kuphela. eThekwini Metro is very rural and it's very urban, it's both. So khaya. Uspeaker, Sotswepu, Chief Whip, ngibingelele inkosi yaseNdlunkulu babucele. Bingelela amakhansela wonke aku-Exco nangekho ku-Exco. Officials from the Metro, from the province, from the national, all the stakeholders. But before siqale bengizocela nje ukuthi sisukume senze a moment of silence for the following. Umntwana Thukuthula ozalwa isilo, inkosi eKhotheme yakwaMkhize Simahleni, u-Auditor General, uMayor, former Mayor wase Nelson Mandela, kanye noComrade wethu besimthanda uMluleki Ndobe. May their souls rest in peace. Thank you. Thank you very much to those who've spoken before me. Usokhaya, Mayor, has given a comprehensive report of what is going on in eThekwini Metro. And it is clear that a lot is being done, has been done, but a lot more still needs to be done. And thank you also to the champions, because clearly the work has started, but there is lots that needs to be done. Just over a year since the launch of the DDM pilot here in eThekwini. And at the time, our economy wasn't doing well. And we were excited that the DDM was to economic growth. But who would have thought that we would meet a year later in the grip of a deadliest health pandemic since the Spanish flu in 1918, sorry. The pandemic has depressed the global economy, and of course South Africa has not been spared, and it has deepened the challenges that we were already facing, challenges of hunger, poverty, unemployment, inequality, and has widened the digital divide, and of course has reduced the revenue collection for all municipalities. So these are some of the problems that COVID-19 has brought to our shores. But we had to respond based on our unique situation. We had to ensure that we balance between saving lives and livelihoods. So we had to then go down the levels from the lockdown 5, which was almost a complete lockdown, and we're happy now that we're at level 1. But I just want to stress that the pandemic is not over yet. The virus is still with us. The lowering of levels for economic activity increases the movement of people. It increases the gatherings of people. And so the risk is not lower when the level is lower. Actually, the risk is higher because there are more people moving around, there are more people gathering. So we must remember that. And as the President said yesterday, we must do all we can to ensure that we don't have a second surge. And if we do, it shouldn't be like it's happening in other countries that we see, where the second surge is even higher and more deadlier than the first surge. But it's all in our hands. If we sanitize as we do here, but not end here, sanitize everywhere we go. Social distance, not end here, social distance everywhere where we are. And of course, wear our masks and make sure that we obey the numbers in terms of gatherings. And where it's not necessary to move, we stay at home. So that way, we will protect ourselves, but we'll protect those around us as well. And we must just remember that no one is safe until we're all safe. So let's continue fighting the virus. But I think we must also take advantage of the fact that we've had this pandemic, and we must, as the mayor said, take it as a reset button for the economy and start building a more inclusive economy, expand access to communication infrastructure. A country like ours should have a wall-to-wall ICT infrastructure. You shouldn't be traveling and find that there are blind spots all over. There's no network, there's no internet. And that also will increase the inequality. As we have seen during the lockdown, some of the children were able to continue with their schooling at home online, others were not. So this is very important. Socio-economic transformation, radical socio-economic transformation is critical. We have to ensure that as we budget, Mayor, our budget must be gender responsive. We must be able to say in every rand that we spend in eThekwini, how much of that goes to women. And we must ensure that the youth is empowered. I know you've got youth programs, but we need more. And we must, of course, work faster, more coherently, and in an integrated manner, so that we can build communities that are resilient, that are sustainable, that are prosperous, communities that are climate smart. And so it's important that we then do that. So after the pilot, we thought we should visit eThekwini and see and get a feedback of what has happened since we left. But also remind ourselves what our responsibilities are. The responsibilities of eThekwini, like in all the other municipalities, derive from the Constitution, from our Constitution. And I'll just quote 3 sections of that Constitution. Section 152, provide democratic and accountable government for local communities. As we saw yesterday, congratulations for the by-elections. Services provision in a sustainable manner, promote social and economic development, promote safe and healthy environment. Safe and healthy environment. And it must be safe not only for men, it must be safe for all of us. Encourage involvement of communities. Section 153, developmental duties of the municipalities. Administer the budget and plan, priority to basic needs. Promote social and economic development of communities. Participate in national and provincial development programs. But the Constitution understands how important municipalities are, the local sphere is, to the extent that the Constitution mandates or commands both the national and the provincial sphere of government. It actually commands because it says it must strengthen capacity of municipalities so that they can perform their functions. So constitutionally, the local sphere is actually the center of universe of government. That's why both the national and the provincial must strengthen this sphere of government. And we can see whether a municipality is working properly or not. We use maybe just these 4 areas. We could have many more, but we chose that we look at the 4 areas. The first area is political and governance. So I will talk generally here, but ITEGU must then look at itself and say where is it when we talk about these challenges. The challenges that we see in many municipalities in terms of governance, we find that there's infighting sometimes amongst the political leadership, amongst councillors. We see sometimes there's infighting. Sometimes there's inappropriate interface between the councillors and the administration, so the political and the administration. And also sometimes poor oversight, and also sometimes where there are coalitions, we see that they don't work as well. Sometimes there is inactivity because the coalition is not working properly. And sometimes there's no consequence management, but I heard from the mayor that there is here. So you find that sometimes there's no unity in the council, and therefore it becomes unstable. So those are some of the challenges that we see in municipalities. And then in administration, we sometimes see high vacancy rates, even very important portfolios like CFOs, technical services, engineering, planners. You find that it takes long to fill those posts. And sometimes when they do get filled, they are also filled by people who don't qualify. And sometimes there are allegations of corruption in the filling of those posts. And of course, the other area is financial management, where you get poor audit outcomes. Of course, some of the municipalities are under financial distress through no fault of their own. Some it's because the finances are not handled properly. Sometimes some of the municipalities adopt unfunded budgets. Sometimes they use consultants, but you have nothing to show for it. There is no improvement even when they spend money on consultants. and some municipalities have high level of irregularities, fruitless expenditure, and so on. Now, if those three, the governance, the administration, and the financial management are good, you tend to have good service delivery, less protests, and a stable situation. But if those three are not working properly, then you'll find that service delivery is inadequate, and you find that communities protest. And of course, some of the municipalities don't even budget for maintenance of infrastructure. So, supposed to be 8% of the budget, but the highest is 1.8 that we've seen. So eThekwini, it would be good for you to tell us whether in governance, are you good to go? Are you stable? Are you united? Are you working properly? Are you having a healthy interface between the council members, which is political, and the administration and business? Is that interface appropriate? In some of the municipalities, well, let me say, in my own imagination, I imagine a municipality as a fried egg, where you have the yellow and the white. They are together, but they are distinct. You can see where the yellow starts and ends, where the white starts and ends. And that's a healthy municipality. And then you can see the business also where it starts and ends. But in some of the municipalities, you find that it's all scrambled. You can't tell where the egg white is, where the yellow is, where the green, which is business, is. It's just one thing. And where it's like that, then you know we're in deep trouble. It's like that, as you can see there. So I'm not going to talk about eThekwini Metro. You must tell us whether you are a clean egg, where the yellow is very clean, distinct, and the white is distinct, and the interface is healthy, and the business is sitting where it should be sitting, or whether it's all mixed up. But these are some of the challenges that need to be resolved. And sometimes people try and resolve those challenges using administrative means when it's political. But having said that, when we went to government in '94, we had a document that government was using, which was called the Reconstruction and Development Program, RDP. And the RDP then said we must work in a coordinated and coherent way, and our strategies must be coordinated and coherent. It also said our programs must ensure that we address unemployment, we address inequality, hunger, and so on, and that we build the economy by also providing basic needs. So when we look at infrastructure, we must ensure that the infrastructure we build also addresses the basic needs, and so on. But more importantly, it also said we must seek to help people generate economic wealth in their chosen communities. That's very important, and I'll come back to that. And of course, even our white paper said no challenges unless the components of government function as a cohesive whole. That's what the white paper said on local government, and that's what the RDP said, and that's why we have made sure that we adopt the district development model, where all the three spheres descend to a district and work together. And this will assist to solve horizontal and vertical silos, narrow the distance between the people and government, deliver integrated services, and also monitoring and evaluation. It should be inclusive and gender mainstreamed budgets based on people and community needs. And this must maximize the impact on the ground by all aligning our resources, national, provincial, and the metro, and work on the areas that we have chosen and have a better impact than if we are working in silos. But we must facilitate also for local economic development. That's what the RDP said, that we must assist people to generate wealth in the communities they choose. At the moment, it's not like that. A lot of people are used by the eThekwini here. A lot of people come here from their communities, not out of choice, but out of desperation, because they can't earn a living where they are. So out of desperation, they come to Durban thinking that they are going to find green pastures, they are going to find a house, water, electricity, a job. And what happens? They don't find that. They end up swelling the ranks of the urban poor. And that's why it's so important that we must develop local economies so that people don't have to leave their communities. Now, eThekwini will never develop to its full potential if those communities also don't develop, if other districts don't develop. Because every time you have a plan that you are going to do this and this and this, then people come, they put up imkuku, it becomes an emergency, then you have to deal with that. And then you are diverted from what you should be doing. So it's important that we ensure that people develop where they are. And it should be sustainable in development that will promote the eradication of poverty, unemployment, hunger, inequality. And of course, we must ensure that we start just by the things we have. We ask ourselves, what do we have? What are our endowments in eThekwini? What are our comparative advantages? And then how do we optimize industrial structure? We must make sure that we massify and optimize the industrial structure. We marshal all society and structure partnerships with all sorts of institutions of higher learning, research institutions, and many others. And we must link communities to the skills revolution. Now, the skills revolution is probably the most important, because you can have money, you can have brick and mortar. If you don't have skilled people to use the money and the brick and mortar, you will still not develop. If I were to choose one, I would choose to have skilled people, because they'll figure out what to do. But if they are not skilled, figure out what to do. And skills does not mean just engineers and graduates. They are very important, we need them. But other skills at a lower level, technical skills, artisanry skills, agricultural skills, skills across the board. And of course, we must also be able to link to markets, to domestic markets, to regional markets, continental markets, and global markets. Now with the African Free Trade Area, it's a huge opportunity for us. Now, if we look at eThekwini, we can diversify quite a lot in terms of our economy in eThekwini. Because eThekwini has both rural and urban. Tourism. When we were here last year, we recognized that tourism, especially domestic tourism, was dropping, was declining in eThekwini. Of course, this year we can't measure it because of COVID, but we must work hard so that by next year, tourism picks up, and we should be increasing our tourism, not declining. Logistic hubs, ocean economy. The mayor was saying we should stop talking about it, but do it. So when are we going to do it? We could be constructing vessels and ferries. We should resuscitate the manufacturing industry in eThekwini. eThekwini has one of the best climates, and we could be a big arts and film industry here. But we don't even have proper filming studios. Why not? Sports, we could be a great place for sports, for conferencing. But I said this long time ago, eThekwini, it's not even on the global weather forecast. If somebody is sitting somewhere cold and he wants somewhere warm, they look at the weather forecast. eThekwini is not there, so they're not going to think about eThekwini because you are not there. In South Africa, I think it's only Joburg and Cape Town, which is in the international weather forecast. Why not? Why aren't you putting yourselves on the international weather forecast? Simple thing. Pay a little bit of money, but it pays. Other countries have lots of their own cities on the international weather forecast. Just a small thing that I thought I should raise. But I think it was Deputy Minister John Jeffries who said eThekwini is very important. It is. It's an economic hub for KZN and for South Africa. But it's also very unique because it has both rural and urban. So agriculture, in all its manifestations, can flourish in eThekwini. Agro-processing can flourish in eThekwini. And of course, you have a third of the population of KZN is here. So you are very important. And both for the province, but also national. So it is very important for us to ensure that eThekwini develops. Of course, not only as a pilot, but as an important metro in the country, in the province. And of course, the metro must also contribute to the development of the neighboring districts. You can't just be satisfied that eThekwini is developing when others around you are not. But of course, your development has also got to be linked with the development of the province, because you can't develop in isolation of the rest of the province. And of course, the province has also got lots of endowments. The people, that's the most precious resource you have. And that's why we must invest on that resource, skills, health. And of course, you have the transport linkages. N2 goes through here, N3 goes through here, there's an airport here, there is a harbor here, one of the busiest in Africa. So you are very endowed, both as Itegu, but as part of the bigger province. There are lots of things, I won't mention all of them. Your comparative advantage is, of course, the people. You've got land, agricultural land as a metro. You have a warm coastline. You can do floating tourism, coastal tourism, entertainment, sports, conferencing. You are strategically located as a logistic hub. The province itself borders with 3 countries. So eThekwini, being part of that province, must take that as an advantage. And also international sports. You have world-class facilities also for education. So we are very well endowed. We have comparative advantages. So it's for us to now utilize those to get eThekwini Metro to develop. So you must make sure that the concentration of opportunities in eThekwini work for us, eThekwini, but also work for the province as a whole. The challenge is the underutilization of strategic competitive advantage areas in agriculture, for instance, and the ocean. I don't think you have a big fishing company here, like in Cape Town, but you have a huge coastline. You're not building vessels here, but a lot of the cargo comes through here. I'm not even sure whether you repair boats here. So there's lots that can be done. But the challenge, you still have high levels of poverty in this metro. So, and the skills are limited. Some of the high-end skills actually leave the province and go somewhere else. So there's outward migration to Gauteng especially, but also inward people who are coming to look for jobs. When we were here before, one of the complaints that we got from citizens was crime and grime. So how far are we in dealing with that crime and grime? Because when you have got crime and grime, investors are not going to rush in. And what about corruption? Is there corruption here? Because corruption corrodes the trust between people and government. Do you have an omelette in your municipality? If you do, you must unscramble it. I don't know whether you do. So we have to deal with these challenges because the district development model won't work if the base, because the metro, the council, the municipality is the base for it to work. If the base is not strong, then the district development model won't work. So I hope it is strong. When I was here also before, there was a big complaint from citizens, I don't know whether that has been resolved, about the billing system. They were saying that they receive huge bills which do not bear relationship to how they are using electricity. I hope that has been resolved. There was an issue of water. We must try and resolve that issue of water, and there were water losses. I can't remember whether it was 30% or what of water losses from aging infrastructure. Now, if you lose that amount of water, it means you're losing that amount of revenue, and then you'll end up owing the water boards. So it's important to ensure that that is done. But you have the champions who can call on any department that you need to come and assist. The other challenge was housing. We were told when we were here before that some years back, this metro was able to build about 16,000 houses a year. But I think last year they were saying they are only building 4,000 a year. But the population is growing and the building of houses is going down. Why? Is it the capacity in the metro? What is it? So we need to look at all those challenges. But these are challenges that were there last year. I'm sure some of them are still here, especially those that needed people to go out because of COVID. But some of them, like the billing system and all that, should not have been affected by COVID. I hope they are being resolved. So I think the question then I would like to leave with you is eThekwini ready to take advantage of its own endowments, of its own comparative advantages? Is the municipality stable so that it can actually take advantage of this? Is it well governed as envisaged by the Constitution and the RDP? Are you ready for the DDM to be piloted here to ensure that others take lessons from you? So you have to be ready. You have to make sure that the base is strong, and therefore we can get the DDM to work and be successful. I'll end with a quote from Ben Okri, who says, "We can redream this world." So you can redream the metro and make the dream come real. Because you can never do it unless you have thought about it. And he says, human beings are gods hidden from themselves. Akekho uNkulunkulu ozofika azosiza la kule metro. uNkulunkulu usasiza already. Wasinika ingqondo, wasinika amehlo, wasinika umlomo, wasinika indlebe, wasinika izandla, wasinika yonke into. Sekuyithina manje usebenza ngathi manje. Uma thina singasebenzi akuyena uNkulunkulu othi akungenzeki. Thina. So nathi kufuneka senze okwethu. Ngiyabonga ke Mayor nama champions wonke nothisha omkhulu. Ngiyabonga ukuthi ninginike leli thuba ukuthi sizoxoxa ngale metro sibone ukuthi sesikuphi. Even though other districts are being rolled out, but these three will remain pilots. All the lessons have to be learned here. Special attention has to be paid to the pilots. If the pilots fail, it means the DDM is failing. So, eTheku, you cannot fail. Because you'll be failing not only yourselves, not only the people who live around eTheku, You'll be failing the province, you'll be failing the country as a whole. And looking at you, you are not ready to fail. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Minister. And I think the quote from Ben Okri really sums up everything that is expected of us. We need to redream eThekwini Metro, reimagine it and make it a better place to be. So thank you indeed, Minister. And on a lighter note, Minister, I saw your tweet yesterday where you were encouraging people to go and vote, and obviously vote for the ANC. And Twitter being Twitter, everyone has views there. So someone responded and say, "Uyakhumbula uvalo kwayo uthi asingabhemi." You want us to go and vote? You know, people of Twitter. No, thank you so much, colleagues. I think we can now then take the discussions, and the discussions will be on the address by the mayor, the reflections by the two TMs, as well as the main address by the minister. So you are allowed to reflect on all the addresses we have received thus far. So we will request colleagues that because of time, we take just one set of hands so that we try to cover the time. So we'll request that we raise hands, those who want to engage on the presentations made. I do hope that we have roving microphones. So let me see hands, colleagues. I will also allocate numbers so that can I see hands? There's number one hand here from the speaker. We are calling for hands for discussions, colleagues. Okay, let's start with the speaker. Let's hope she will break the ice, and then we get more hands. Be free, colleagues. We are not going to rethink and reimagine eThekwini when we don't make contributions. Particularly we who are citizens of eThekwini, we need to contribute how we want to turn around eThekwini, what kind of eThekwini we want in the next few years to come. So we're encouraging you, colleagues. Okay. Umela uyakhulula ke thina singama officials nathi ukuchaza sikhulume nje. Yitheke lethu lonke sonke. So this meeting is not only for political leaders, officials can also contribute. So I will check if there's another set after speaker. Yes, speaker.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you very much.
Is there a problem with that mic? You can come this side, speaker, if you, while they are sorting out the microphone.
Thank you very much, Program Director. I also want to thank the Minister and the Deputy Ministers for their presentations. I want to respond, Minister, to your last question. Is eThekwini ready for the DDM? I want to give you comfort, Minister, that we are ready for the DDM. Our advantage is that in the province and in our city, we have Operation Sukumasake. So we have all the structures ready to act and respond to the problems of the people in the city. But also now that we are working together with the national government, closer with the DMs being champions, and our provincial government with the MEC as champion, we will be able now to break that silos thing, because if they are here working with us, we will be able to have responses working together from national, provincial, and local government. Our problem that we still have, I think that we still have to crack the whip together, is the departments that do not want to participate, especially with our OSS programs. When you get to the communities, they complain about departments that do not attend the war room meetings, which I think is a bit of a problem, and it's going to be a problem with our DDM, because that is where people identify and bring their problems to the war room, and all of us have to work together in ensuring that we respond to people's problems. But I want to give you comfort that because we're now working together and we have the DDM, we are ready as a eThekwini for DDM. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Speaker. I've been advised that we have been joined by Undabezitha Upengu Nondabezitha Ulthuli. Siyawamkela amakhosi aseNdlunkulu. Colleagues, we continue with the hands. Nizwile uMinister uthe nguthisha omkhulu, so nginelungelo lokukhomba njengothisha omkhulu. Can we invite more hands, colleagues? Umeya unkaveno Job. Ngwethembile nawe Job. Yes. Colleagues, Ujobe will be the first. Let's see other colleagues. Please raise your hand so that we can recognize you from the side. Okay, it seems as if we'll only... Any hand at the back? No hands. So we'll have Ujobe, then we'll see if the mayor also wants to make the reflection, MEC Hlomuga, if you also want, and the deputy ministers. Will give you a chance before we hand it back to the minister for summary in terms of the reflections that will have been made. Job.
Ngiyabingelela ku Minister uDlamini Zuma nama deputy ministers no mayor na yonke leadership ekhona. Ngiyacabanga ukuthi ozakwethu babonile ukuthi bengaphakamisanga kodwa ngikhonjiwe. Shothi ningangithemba. No, we appreciate the presentation by the minister, and one of the reasons why I think my colleagues from eThekwini are not raising hands is because we were covered by the presentation by the mayor. But in terms of the comments or the speech of the minister, there was so much emphasis on she called it our endowments, which is our comparative advantages. And more than 50% of them were related to tourism and the ocean's economy. And we, as the city, we have made so many strides towards addressing what the minister raised, because I happen to have had an opportunity, because she was based at our offices at Lion Match, and we briefly engaged on tourism, and I was surprised by her depth of knowledge around tourism. And we took note of what she was saying, and we then developed programs that are speaking directly to what the minister was saying. One of the things that we are doing, that we are improving on, is to market the city of Durban, but market it within the context that Durban is within KwaZulu-Natal. So when we market Durban, we also talk about the neighboring towns and what KwaZulu-Natal offers. So we normally say 1 hour from Durban, these are things that you can get. But over and above that, we also have a marketing strategy, which is an international marketing strategy on how do we attract international visitors to the city of Durban. So I won't go into details about that, because the next session I am in the panel and I will be talking more on that. But we do have that particular strategy. The last point that I want to talk about and give assurance to the minister, deputy ministers present, is that in terms of the economic development and planning in the city, since the last visit of the minister, the city has moved to a point where economic development as a cluster within the city is now receiving the necessary attention from other senior administrators within the city, and also from the office of the mayor, hence the creation of eThekwini Economic Council and the war room on job creation and catalytic projects. So I will be addressing some of those items when during the next session. So mhlambe angibonge sihlalo ukunikwa ithuba. Ngiyabonga.
Thank you so much, Jobe. Mayor, I think we can invite you now.
So, Principal. Siyabonga thisha omkhulu. Nami ngifisa ukukhuleka emakhosini eSendlunkulu asesijoinile. Mhlamba welcome ama inputs from the deputy ministers and our minister of culture in the Republic, and we have received a good lecture in terms of what are the opportunities that we should be seizing as a city. So we take note of all the issues that she raised with us. Shinami ngizama ukubalekela lento yokuthi ngerefer ku Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma njengo national minister, ngoba uminister bayede eSouth Africa mase kuba khona ama MECs. Sizama ukuyilungisa kancane ukuthi cha mase ngathi national minister khona u-provincial minister. Oh yeah, then bengifisa ukuresponda kuma issues ambalwa. Okokuqala ukuthi moral of abasebenzi, the workers of eThekwini, has been down because of the instability which the minister has spoken about. Now there is stability, we can confirm. There is stability. When we confirm that there is stability, we do not imply that each and every employee is at that level to execute his or her responsibilities. So we're still working on that. It's a process which we believe is gonna change how things are conducted, as well as instilling the culture that will make this institution go forward. Because once you lose culture, once there is high level of absenteeism, when there is high level of negligence in terms of execution of responsibilities, where there is lack of close supervision when people do their work. So it poses many dangers in how the institution can operate effectively. But part of what we are attending to, we've just conducted the skills audit. And COGTA at a provincial level, led by the MEC, they are finalizing the skills audit for the city and other municipalities. Why we decided to conduct such is that you may be having people with expertise but seated in wrong departments. So you can boast with engineers who are 128 in this city. I don't think that there is a city in the country that has got about 128 engineers. But does that talk to productivity? Does that talk to how you do things in terms of rendering services? If you have such number of engineers, why are we continuing to outsource things in a manner that we do? So it's the location which becomes more important, and how do you rationalize the people with expertise that must add value to what the municipality is doing. So we are in that process, and that rationalization will assist us because sikholelwa ukuthi team ene-cultural right, team ekwaziyo ukuthi uthatha strike mawusubona sekunzima udlalise sibe i-midfield, uthatha i-defend yenze ibe yi-strike. Angifuni ukwenza example kodwa ikhona i-team engiye ngiyibona ikwenza lokho. Khona umndondoshiya wendoda ukuthathwe oyi-defend kubuye kuthiwa yoshaya amagoli ngekhanda kwenye ama-teams, zoba izoqhathakile into yama-teams ingcono ungayimenshini. The only one I can mention nje iMoroka Swallows, sonke siyijabulela ukuthi seyinyukile isikhona ku-PSL. Then we need to fix those things, because once you have an entity with people who can add value but they are seated in wrong places, then the levels of productivity, because the fact of the matter is, it's not a South African phenomenon, it's a global phenomenon, that the labor force is increasing but the level of productivity is shrinking. So for us to strike a balance in these two, we need to see what are the contributory factors that makes us to have a huge cohort of employees, but the productivity is slow. So we need to do that. The other element which we believe Honorable Minister will also assist us is the role of the public servant school. Because public servant school is supposed to be directing some efforts to build on the soft skills. Because people do qualify, they are qualified, but the soft skills of doing things and make things happen, maybe it's where we are lagging behind. If you go to China, for example, they have a 3-year qualification which government renders to its public servants. And that thing is compulsory. What are they studying there? It's how they can implement government programs and policies. Because it's another way of having manifestos, but to translate that into implementation is another way if people do believe in the vision that you have for the country. So some soft skills are still required to deal with such challenges. So we are hoping that the government school will also deal with that, but our own school, Academy, eThekwini Municipal Academy, is putting more concerted efforts to try and address that. The issue on the billing system is still a big elephant in the room. We must be honest, we must not claim easy victories here. It's still a big elephant in the room, but there are interventions. The first intervention is that how often do you read meters? Because your billing system should be informed by how often do you read meters. We've started to make some improvements on water that we need to massify it. On a monthly basis, meters must be read. Electricity must do the same, because electricity used to conduct 3 months meter readings. or quarterly meter readings. So now we are hoping that that will also add some positive story in regard to that. But the offensive action that is required, which we have directed our city treasurer to do and conduct, is where you do not wait for people to come to the city hall and complain about these high bills. It's where the municipality conducts road shows. Now, there's nothing that stops us to continue conducting road shows. You go to the people, you call them, they come to those centers, they give their issues to us, but you have time frames in terms of responding to the issues that they've raised with the municipality concerning their bills. It does not only affect just our citizens. There are councillors who also get affected because they also part of the citizens. The communities, they are complaining on daily basis about it. So we said that is the action which we have given them up until the end of November to conclude such interactions. Just citywide road shows to get these challenges, to deal with each and every and the merit of each and every case. We understand in some instances there are leaks in meters which can add more money, but in the main is the miscalculation, because in a household where there are 4 people, they can't be charged as if they are running a particular factory in that household. So people, they get charged as if they are running a big factory there. So those are the things we are trying to address. As I'm going to sit, there is one issue concerning the pace in which we are delivering houses. The reason why before we were able to deliver more houses as eThekwini is because we had something that was called kokuthiwa yini manje saskipha imali yeTheku siyifake ekwakheni izindlu, this bridging finance. Now there was an audit outcome in that. That is an unfunded mandate, so as eThekwini you can't continue to budget for the houses because it really assisted us to increase the pace in which we were delivering houses. Maybe if that can be considered, an Auditor General can understand that there are things which can be regarded as unfunded mandates, which is good, but there are things which really, they are inevitable because we must deliver on the ground. So this thing of putting these attachments, no, it's not your competency. It's a national and provincial competence. It affects us. So I think DDM will also try and assist in that regard to unlock such issues. I think Auditor General should be developmental in thinking that really there are things which, like the roads, the provincial department is unable to do major roads in the city to maintain them. But whilst on the other side, the city does a very good job in maintaining its own road and building new access roads. But you still remain with the roads which are provincial in nature, which can be done. And they are at a stage where they are at a stage of collapsing. Now, it requires that, how do we work together? We are about to sign a memorandum of understanding with the Provincial Department of Roads to say, just give these roads to us as a city. Hand them over formally, let's sign the agreement that they will become part of our assets, because we can't spend money if they are not our assets. Because immediately you start spending money if they are not our assets, unfunded mandate comes in. So I think those are the issues in government that needs to be unlocked. The delivery of water, sizondinga kakhulu la leadership. Mawufuna ukuqinisekisa ukuthi eThekwini amanzi atholakala kahle, udinga imali yangempela. Le budget yethu nje sinayo iyawenza umehluko, kodwa mncanyana umehluko ezawenza. So ke if nje ngingathiwa iDepartment ka Water imani sishaya ngesigaxa nje semali, so tifakana amanzi. Ngoba amanzi ayisiqalo sempilo. Mangabe ukhuluma ngamanzi ukuthi ayi basic service, but awukwazi ukukhuluma ngawo kodwa ungabi khona action esiwenzayo. amandla ethu ke ngoba as allocate imali ebheka amanzi kuphela, as allocate imali ebheka imigwaqo, ugesi, infrastructure, bulk infrastructure endlini, as allocate imali for economic development, for building libraries, which are also unfunded mandate. We are still building libraries, we are building clinics, we are building museums, but they are unfunded mandates. But we still maintain all these other service delivery issues. So we request that maybe moving forward, let's intervene. I'm sure ukuthi iTheku njengomasipala omkhulu kangaka abanye abantu ba-assume ukuthi linemali so lizokwazi ukuzenzela liyimele kuyo yonke into. Nami ngisekwa provincial government minister ngangibehave kanjalo. Ngangingayilethi imigwaqo la ngithi hayi ngizoya kulabo masipala abancane sizama uku-addressa le nto adoyisho minister ukuthi mawungayidevelop lezi indawo zama outskirt areas, people will come here in this city. So mawunza development, so provincial government I also understand the approach ukuthi the outskirt areas must be developed so that you don't have all people migrating to eThekwini. So therefore, focus igcina ikulezi indawo ama-district amanye amakhulu. But forgetting ukuthi neTheku li-rural. 60% is township and rural, so it also requires that intervention. So we are looking forward to work with all stakeholders to address those things. But the behavior yomphakathi iyona ebalulekile. In a city like eThekwini, if you do not address the issue of stability, where business forums still continue to go and stop projects, you're not going to be attracting investment. There's no way. There's no investor who will have all the guts to come and invest in your city. If there are still service delivery protests which are violent in nature, not just that people are standing on the road with their placards saying we need water, we want water, we demand water, but they are not standing with their placards, they are standing with stones, with tires, burning tires all over the roads, stoning the cars of the very same residents who reside along those areas. So that talks on the stability. If we still have a belief that to address the issue of economy is to chase away those who are trading who are from Africa, that is the solution that we have. Beat them, steal their goods because they are not supposed to be here. Yes, we must accept that there is a lot that still needs to be done to try and protect local economies so that even small things like running a spaza shop, it doesn't become an issue that our people need to hand it over to other people from other countries just to run a spaza shop. And why there are those frustrations is because we have not been coming close to our people, giving them necessary support so that they can sustain in running these spaza shops. So the only thing that pushed them to outsource these spaza shops is that we don't receive necessary support from government to assist us. So we rather make these people pay the rent and do everything, these colleagues of ours, then Tina will just collect the rent. But the question that arises, when you asked a fundamental question, manje uthi sure umuntu wrong ke minister ngoba mayishiwo wena ukhawunda iba subjective. Kuba sengathi uyisho ngoba nawe kubuza ubuwena ukuthi kahle hle wena ke uzube imeya ngela uvelaphi. Kuze kuthiwa imeya ukhawunda basha abanye. Yasho umunye ukhosini wathi hayi asiboni labantu bokuhamba bezoqedeka kahle ngoba kwayena lo khulumayo umeya nayo ngokuhamba. But ke politically is what we must address. Isho ukuthini lento yokuba umuntu okuhamba. Ngabe yona lemngcele seAfrica ukuthi khona baseNamibia, khona baseMozambique, khona base-South Africa, khona base-Uganda, ngabe yakhiwa yithina leyo mngcele? If ingakhiwa ngayithina, why sistika kuyona is-divide njengama-Africa? Why on the other side ugovernment wethu ekhulume nge-Africa free trade, thina ngapha siya-reversa, siya-regressa sithi akushawa abantu, abakhisha abantu akekho sokwabuza umuntu odayisa egateway unesitolo wase-Italy ukuthi ufunani la South Africa njengoba uzodayisa la. It's because we understand there is Competition Commission and Act, there is Business Act that gives a right to everyone to trade. But what is important are the bylaws. In this space, we'll just protect this so that it doesn't get affected and be taken away from locals. Then we need to pass those bylaws. There's a process in which we are engaging ourselves in, and I think we'll achieve a lot. Thank you very much.
No, thank you very much, Program Director. I think leadership, one of the former President Kgalema, once said, we are still a man, even if we are quiet in the meeting. Because we are covered, there's no need to raise issues. Does not mean you have to force yourself and rise and raise. You'll end up doing rhetoric. Having said that, Program Director and Minister, I think the colleagues, they have been covered by your reports. That means you are good teachers, because you're able, when you presented, almost all of us say Bambil. But just 2 or 3 issues. There are questions that we have raised in your presentation, Minister, of which the Mayor of eThekwini have tried to answer those questions before even you presented. You quoted a Constitution, Section 152, which says local government must provide a democratic and accountable local government with the purpose of a sustainable service delivery. Now, the question that we need to ask ourselves, are we creating a sustainable service delivery for our people in eThekwini as eThekwini municipality? However, as you already, Minister, presented the district development model, which say as the spheres of government we need to work together. And part of the Constitution of Republic, Section 154, also say a provincial and a national government must support local government. Hence, what the Mayor has just alluded to it now is that there are engagement that need to take place, especially on the issues of projects or programs, especially project that deals with roads, project that deals with housing. I'm aware that national government, especially human settlement, they do accreditate metros to do projects for themselves, but they need to have that MOU so that when AG comes to ask and say, why are you building houses on your own without getting budget from the national? I think the Mayor just said, as part of trying to fast-track service delivery, if you don't have a budget now, you apply at the Development Bank of South Africa, I think, if I'm not mistaken, but a front loading, where you say, can you give us this budget, you will pay in 2 years or 3 years, while we want to deal with the challenges. I think those are the issues that us as a government, be it is a national or it's a provincial and local, we need to work together to ensure that we fast track the issue of self-delivery. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Shomoga. I want to check if the M's are fine. Then we'll request the Minister for the concluding remarks and then invite Deputy Mayor to then close this first session. Minister, your remarks, please.
Thank you very much. I think, Mayor, some of the things was part of the School of Governance. Last year, I did speak to them because I was checking what modules they have for local government. And I found that they didn't have any specific modules for local government. And I requested if they could develop them. So we're going to check, and the champions will help to check whether they've developed those. But it's not just, as you say, for local government, but for government as a whole. We do need to make sure that public servants have those skills. I always quarrel with public servants, for instance, who don't answer phones. And then they say, oh, I didn't know the number. Are you expecting to know a number of every South African that you must be serving if you are only going to answer numbers that you know? So it's a whole range of things. And also, when they ask somebody in Copter about something that happens in housing, no, I don't deal with that. No, you're government. You must then talk to your counterpart in housing and say there's a person who has this problem. I'm going to refer them to you. You must deal with them and give the person the number. Just simple things, the number of the person in housing that they must then talk to. But you find people just saying, I still nalogotini, to housing le, haibu. So I agree with you, it's those things that we must deal with. And then the housing one, I think nayo soyiphathwe mphako, soyikhuluma no nabaga housing. Amanzi ke, I think sonke ayasidinga nje ukuthi silekelele. And I hope that there was, when I was here before, but you don't have to respond now, there was a problem also yama water tankers. We were told ukuthi ama water tankers kamasipala yapaka. Uqashwe ama water tankers ngaphandle ahambisa amanzi awakamasipala ehleli epakile. I hope that has been resolved. Thank you.
No, that's fine. Thanks. Just give it to people. Thanks.
Honourable Minister, our MECs present, His Worship the Mayor, our Deputy Ministers, it really has been wonderful, the exchange that we've heard in the first session this morning. And it really does underline the importance of intergovernmental relations. We're sitting on a podium here where we've got national, local, and provincial, and we don't do this often enough. And we don't, and we can go a lot further in terms of the interchange between our different spheres of government to strengthen local government, because local government is the bottom-up approach to governance, and if local government does not work, government does not work. So these relations are extremely important, and I think that that's what the whole DDM model is based on, to ensure that we work together in order to improve the efficiency of service delivery. And each one of you live in a municipality. So we can add a lot of weight in terms of our experience. There's a huge amount of experience just on this platform here today in government where we are able to work together. Let's close by saying I'm looking forward to the continuing in this program, but I think that these exchanges need to happen more often. Working together, eThekwini is really important. It's not the only important municipality, but it's critical to the economic future of KwaZulu-Natal. eThekwini is the base, the powerhouse of the economy in KwaZulu-Natal. So eThekwini needs to work, and we need to work together to make it work. I thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much, Deputy Mayor. There's a request for a group photo, Minister and the colleagues here on stage. Immediately, once they are done with the group photo, we'll request that we allow the Minister and the entourage to leave for a tea break in the holding room. Then the other colleagues, I think Apple Green will indicate where we're having tea. But for now, who's
carefully made to be broken, new from Magnum.
Next, yes.